You know, JT, I spoke to a few analysts about like how the market's going to look like next year. And one thing they did mention is that they feel this tension, this current tension that's going on between China and the US over the trade war, etc., it's going to continue post the November American elections. And they said it's going to continue regardless of who sits in the White House, whether it is Trump, who's now not well, his vice president, which is Mike Pence, or in fact Joe Biden. You know, it's going to continue. So this tension that's going to continue, how is it going to affect us, literally? You know, because you said we had to tread carefully. So why do we need to tread carefully?
If you look at the trade war, it's very much intensified when Donald Trump became the president, right?
Of course.
So now the thing is, as far as semiconductor and semiconductor-related industry is concerned, the trade war impact is really very much on the chip manufacturing side, you know, because US actually is the undisputed leader of chip manufacturing.
Correct.
And this is the area that China hasn't been really strong at. I mean, China can do almost everything except
for that
chip.
one.
Yeah, for that one. So why should we tread carefully? Because we talk about election, the coming election in November, right? Who will win the election? We don't know for sure, of course. But the thing is, during this intensified trade war, the American has already sort of like wake up this giant, or rather this dragon already, which is China.
Yeah.
Over the years, they have been relying on each other. China has been relying on US equipment.
A very sort of tentative relationship, let's be honest.
Yep. So now that, regardless of what happened after the election, who will become the next president, or whether Trump will remain as president, China has already wake up. You know, they know that this is what US can do to me. So going forward, I'm going to have my own semiconductor supply chain already. I'm not going to continue to rely on them.
Okay. So what does it mean for us?
So basically two aspects, opportunities and challenges. Opportunities is because we Malaysian players, most of us, we do supply equipment to the semiconductor supply chain, right? The other one is offset companies, which is basically labor intensive service to package and assemble the semiconductor device. So basically we are supplier and also we do servicing. So when you have two major semiconductor value chain, essentially it means more opportunities for you. Last time they only need one equipment. Now because you have US, you have China, probably you need to order two equipment, right? So actually that's the opportunity. But the challenges is that will it come to a point that we need to choose side? This is exactly what, if you look at TSMC, the Taiwan Semiconductor Foundry, that's exactly, they are sandwiched between US and China. They have to choose a side. US, because they produce chip using US equipment, but Huawei, which is China, is their second largest customer. They are afraid that it comes to a point that we have to also choose side, because in the semiconductor industry there are also different subsectors, right? Some companies they are not too worried, some companies they are a bit worried
Okay.
This kind of situation.
You have to choose mum or dad in the divorce, kind of thing. The other thing that Malaysian E&E always has a challenge of, and this is a challenge that's been going on for years, is just moving up the value chain. You've heard this argument, this story about Malaysia not being just a cheap labor cost center or moving up because everybody can do it now. So what have the companies done to move up the value chain, and have Malaysian companies moved enough, really?
Okay, so again, if you look at the whole semiconductor value chain, our strength, like I mentioned, is more on offset and also equipment, ATE . So offset basically is labor intensive, nothing really much you can do to like move up value chain. But to be fair to the equipment and ATE manufacturers, actually their nature of business, they are kind of high value added one. They need to really innovate to come up with high technology equipment. So if you look at it, personally, if we compare offset and ATE, to me, ATE or equipment people, they have more potential going forward to actually move up the value chain. But again, just look at the semiconductor value chain, right? Actually, the most high-end process is again chip manufacturing. This this is the part where the US is the undisputed leader, and we do have some IC design house, but really technology-wise, we are nowhere near them. So how, as a country, how do we move up the value chain?
Yeah, which is what my next question is going to be. How do we do this?
Realistically, if you ask me, at this point in time, and also from what we gathered, it's very difficult, because to design and manufacture chip is a very capital intensive business, and most of our E&E semiconductor player in Malaysia, it's like family run business. If they are so-called PLC, they are ultimately owned by businessmen, and for SME it's family owned. So very capital intensive, very difficult for them to do. So let's say, for example, I interviewed this company called Opstar.
Yeah.
This is Sendirian Berhad. What they do is they can at least now like co-develop or co-design the chip with the MNC. They probably can't do it alone yet, but at least they are trying.
And more companies, you think, would be doing this kind of partnerships?
I think that's the way going forward, because they are so small as compared to the US chip designer.
For more on the stories, pick up a copy of The Edge Weekly at all good newsstands.